What's up everyone, Alex here. If you have a habit of playing the same game over and over, then chances are you're gonna start feeling like every single idea has been done before. So, what's there left to do? If you're the duo of Different Sense Games and Lazy Bear Games, the answer's pretty simple. Mash everything that you're enjoying lately and build something off of that. Their latest game, called Bloomtown: A Different Story, is equal parts Stranger Things, Persona 5, Earthbound, Gravity Falls, and Stardew Valley. The result is a charming game that is both familiar yet different, which managed to keep me glued to it until the very end. If this is the first time you've heard of it, Bloomtown: A Different Story is a turn-based RPG set in Illinois during 1960s Americana. The footage you're seeing right now is from the Switch version of the game, and I'd like to thank Twin Sails Interactive for providing this game code. The game is coming out on September 24th on all modern platforms. You play the role of Emily, and you and your brother Chester are sent to spend the summer with your grandpa, who lives in a quaint town called Bloomtown. As you arrive, news of children disappearing start to spread throughout the township, with no clue as to why. Driven by a sense of adventure, you and Chester set off to find these missing children, with the hopes of unraveling the mystery that's haunting Bloomtown. In my demo preview of the game, I mentioned that Bloomtown's gameplay borrows a lot from Persona 5, and the final version still rings true to that. Starting with every command being mapped to a controller button, the presence of demons, combos, which are basically P5's technicals, all-out attacks, social sim elements, and even a room that might as well be called the Velvet Room, it can't be denied that Bloomtown's developers borrowed a lot from the aforementioned game. That said, if you engage with Bloomtown's combat the same way you would Persona 5, you might set yourself up for disappointment, which is why we're going to spend a good chunk of time talking about it. That's because Bloomtown's demons not only have different roles in combat, but battles also have a range system that prevents melee attacks from hitting demons behind the front row. Each role is pretty straightforward. Tanks soak up damage, fighters inflict melee damage, witches inflict magical damage, and supports buff and heal. But it's the combination of both roles and positionals, as well as Bloomtown's way of handling elemental magic, that determine how quickly you'll defeat your enemies. That's because once you get your full party, you'll notice that only half of the 4 main elemental magic inflict damage, while the other half doesn't behave like you think they would. What's more is that if you use these non-damaging spells on an enemy with a specific status effect, they will deal damage. Confused yet? This is the kind of thing that probably needs a guide, and I may consider making one, just because Bloomtown doesn't allow you to review previously displayed help text, nor does it properly convey how to adjust to its style of gameplay. So let me know if you want me to make something like this in the comments below. Simply put, what you're supposed to do is to cleverly use your elemental magic to either disable or take advantage of your enemy's behaviors. Here's a couple of examples. Casting Woozing Wind on a support demon in the back row will ensure that they won't go around healing the other demons in their party, as this spell mutes them. Casting Electrify on hasted fighters or witches will damage other members of their party whenever they attack you. Maybe it's because of how the developers tuned Bloomtown's combat, but there's also the fact that melee attacks and damage miss a lot. I don't recall the last time attacking with magic has ever missed for me in a video game, let alone a Japanese-style turn-based RPG, so finding out that both of these can miss feels weird. That said, if you're a glutton for punishment, you'll be happy to know that Bloomtown does come with a hard mode option out of the box. Another thing that separates Bloomtown from Persona 5 is that each party member can equip an additional demon, allowing you to bring 8 total. The trouble with this is that it's quite difficult to get new demons in Bloomtown. The way it works is that you'll have to leave one enemy standing and put them in a down state by hitting them with their elemental weakness. The problem here is that you'll need to use elemental damage that deals direct damage. And in case you thought about it, inflicting damage over time doesn't count. This means that at least in the first few hours of the game, you're stuck getting enemies who are weak to ice. Your demons do get opportunities to learn new magic upon leveling up. The problem with it is that when you're presented with your choices, you cannot see what that demon's already learned. So if you're trying to diversify the kinds of elemental magic that your demon has, you'll have to remember what they already had before. Now, let's step back for a second here. Imagine playing the game for the first time and no one there to tell you where Bloomtown's gameplay deviates from Persona 5. Thankfully, you're watching this video, so you've already got a leg up on everyone else. That being said, despite some frustrations of having to learn and figure out how Bloomtown expected me to fight, I actually really enjoyed the sense of discovery that led me to the answer. Sure, the fact that enemy demons all have roles might sound weird at first, as well as how some of your early elemental magic functions, but finally putting everything together and defeating enemies handily felt very satisfying. It's probably one of the reasons why I stuck with Bloomtown, even though I didn't have a complete understanding of everything, as if I was playing through the game with a sense of blind faith that the developers wouldn't fail me in the end. And sure enough, as I battled my way through the game's dungeons, I can honestly say that I enjoyed fighting Bloomtown's demons, even though it took me forever to recruit demons into my party. Conversely, Bloomtown's social sim elements are pretty easy to figure out. You can hang out with any of your party members and instantly level up your relationship with them, unlocking new perks. That said, unlike Persona 5, Bloomtown does simulate time passing, which determines when shops are open and how much you're able to do at any given point. Going into dungeons takes up the most time out of everything you can do, but you can also pick up a part-time job, work out, craft lockpicks and things, and go around town completing side objectives. Even though Bloomtown claims that we need to finish dungeons before a certain deadline, the game isn't clear when exactly, I never really found it difficult to complete these dungeons after a couple or so runs. With all that said, I did find a few things that bugged me while playing through Bloomtown. Some objectives are obtuse and can branch and fail, and the game won't allow you to retry them. Which is important to know because the game only has an autosave, though it keeps multiple saves after a certain period of time if you want to reload an earlier one. And in case this is missed, there's no manual saving here. Some side quests might display the wrong objectives. In my game, the quest Catch 'em All displays the objectives for Little Bookworm. It's also a bit easy to get hung up on things while exploring the world, and the quality of the dialogue could be improved to make it sound more natural, interesting, and, in many occasions, clearer. Gameplay mechanics and bugs aside, I think what kept me coming back to Bloomtown is how beautifully vibrant its town and characters are. The game uses a healthy helping of bright colors that make its town pop, while using darker tones to invoke the looming miasma that's slowly taking over the town. Its town color palette reminds me a lot of Stardew Valley, which the devs no doubt took some inspiration from to subconsciously help you get settled in easily. Similarly, the soundtrack provides a good ambiance of songs that enhance the feeling of exploring Bloomtown's town proper and its menacing underside. The soundtrack really isn't trying to hit a specific era, nor does its visuals, but both combined appropriately set the tone for your adventure. And with regards to the story, I normally would be on camera to talk about this to avoid spoilers, but all I'll say is that it basically feels like something inspired by Stranger Things, with a party composed of a bunch of kids and a dog who all just want to save the town from something bad. And credit where credit's due, this type of narrative structure, which is common in movies in the 1980s, ensures that we're always focused on solving this mystery, despite the game's pacing slowing down at times. I'm willing to excuse these pacing snafus just because Bloomtown is that sleepy town that does feel like time slows down, which, of course, is ironic given how it lets time tick forward. Now that I've gone to Bloomtown and back, I pondered what kind of person would love to visit this town. I could easily list the many pieces of media that helped inspire the game and see if that convinces you. But when I really think about it, The biggest thing that I absolutely loved about visiting this quaint and occasionally demonic town is that childlike wonder of stepping into an unknown place with a heightened feeling of adventure and freedom, which is very different from most other Japanese-style RPGs out there. Bloomtown, A Different Story, lets you live that 1980s movie life, where you hang out with your new friends and get to go on an adventure that you know is going to be a good time. And boy howdy, what a brilliant way to tell a different story.